Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about decks that can support you in your color magic practice. So full disclosure, I attempted to film this last week, however, for some reason the video did not render. It would just stop at 3%. So I just took that as a sign that it just wasn't meant to be birthed into the world, and I'm back today to try again, refilm. This time I do have a little bit of changes that I've made since I filmed this video last week. So I'm hoping this time it'll work out. We'll see, knock on wood, right? Okay, so I am just drinking a cup of coffee. It is currently 7:38 a.m. So my daughter woke up really early this morning and then she fell back asleep. So me and my husband are letting her sleep in a bit today because we're going to the farm, and then we have dinner plans with some friends later today. So it's going to be a really busy day, and we want her to get the sleep that she really needs. She's recovering from a stomach bug as well. So she had that not last week. She was recovering last week up till I'd say about today. But the week before, she had a really bad stomach bug. It was terrible. So we're just happy that she's feeling better. And I'm not looking forward to the sicknesses that are gonna come up, especially as it gets colder. Me and my husband tend to get sick a lot around this time of the year. So knock on wood that this year is different. So before we get started in the meat and potatoes of the video, I want to preface that this is my personal experience with my color magic practice, and I work color magic in combination with glamour magic. So the way I approach color magic is through makeup, clothes, I guess you could say even jewelry as well. And my color magic practice isn't just exclusive to color, or I guess I should say my practice isn't just exclusive to color. Color is in combination with familiar spirits, so a lot of plant spirits, particularly right now I'm dealing with a lot of different plant spirits that are coming to me to assist me in my path and in my practice. And one of the primary ways that they communicate with me is through color and through the expression of color. So that's one personal experience that I've really been experiencing, for a lack of a better word. Another familiar spirit that I deal with is animals as well. Animals can also come with color correspondences as well as deities. So even archetypes can express themselves through color to me. So I just wanted to preface that. I think it's important to know the foundation that I'm working with, and I would say that familiar spirits are a significant part of my practice and my approach to color, because I do find that they have color correspondences. So I do have quite a few decks here that I'm really excited to talk about. Some of them are new and some of them are not. So I've spoken about this deck on my channel so many times before. This is the Witch Sister Tarot. So I find that the Witch Sister Tarot is excellent for, I find all witchcraft, but I do find it particularly potent in color magic. I think that Julia Jeffries' use of color in each card, it does connect to how I experience color. It really does match up with the correspondences of each color, at least in my personal experience. I also like the plants depicted, and as well as the animals as well. This deck, it's a very beautifully illustrated deck. Its energy it aligns very well with the element of fire and earth, which I've mentioned so much on my channel. its energy is it's very raw, it's very passionate, it's very connected to the land, the earth element. It's very gritty, very primal, it's wild. It connects you to your ancestors, familiar spirits, the spirits and the guardians of the land. But I do love the vivid use of color. There's these bright, beautiful blues and greens. There's these gorgeous browns. I find that she uses the full spectrum of color too. She doesn't just stick with a particular color palette like in some of the other decks that I'm going to show you. And that's why I really do appreciate this deck and its beauty. This is my top favorite deck of all time. I like using it for all sorts of different purposes. Color Magic is just one of them. I do find it quite proficient at it. Again, I do think that Julia Jeffrey's use of color was very intentional. And I do think that this can be an excellent working deck for a Color Magic practice. And I think that you can use it when you're new to Color Magic and you're growing your Color Magic correspondence by just really looking at what colors really draw you in that card. And I think that this deck can work for intermediate and even more experienced practitioners of Color Magic. So I think that it really does fulfill so many different roles. And I think that it's a great working deck. I think that a lot of you guys already have it. So I love that because I don't want you to feel like you have to go out and purchase any of these decks on this list. If anything, I'm trying to get you to use what works for you, what you already have and what you're drawn to. And if you have a deck in your collection that the reasons that I'm providing as to why a certain deck is useful in this type of a practice, if you have a deck that aligns with those qualities in your mind, or if you can intuitively feel that, then I encourage you to pick up that deck and try it. So of course I don't want you to just be limited to what I show you today. I want you to consider trying something else if you have something that aligns with those qualities that I'm explaining today. So I just wanted to really drive that home. But the next deck that I've been really enjoying using lately, I've been using it over the past week, is the Darkwood Tarot. And this is an excellent, I've been having such a unique experience with it. However, the colors you do find it's more muted. It's perfect for this time of the year, well into winter, because it's very muted color tones. There are some vibrant reds. There's a lot of red in this deck and earth tones. I'm so drawn to the sword suit right now because of this beautiful blue-green shade. But I love the contrast too. Like if, for example, the last card that I showed you, is her use of red is very interesting in this deck. And it is mentioned in the guidebook, at least for the Empress card for this tarot deck, the Darkwood Tarot. She does mention that the Empress's gown is red to symbolize menstruation. So I do think that this is an excellent deck to either start your Color Magic practice. It has that seasonal energy. So if you're watching this video around the time of the year that it was made in, it's autumn right now. It's currently October 20th. So you're gonna get those autumn shades that so much of us are drawn to right now. Unlike with the Witch Sister Tarot I just showed you, which has, I find it has sort of all the colors of the rainbow. This one is it's very autumn and I can see well into winter as well, or even that liminal space right before it snows. However, we've been getting such weird weather here in Canada. We've already had frost and frost warnings as well. So very interesting, weird weather this year. But I do recommend this deck for either a beginner or even a more experienced color magic practitioner. This deck, in my experience, is not simple. It's it definitely takes time and energy. It really wants you to spend time with it. Things are never as they seem. Like, I find this deck to be like the High Priestess or even the Moon card. Like, nothing is really as it seems. You can't take anything at face value. You really have to spend time with the cards. Really take a closer look at the imagery. There's a lot of symbolism, and the use of color is definitely something you want to spend time with. There was a card I just pulled the other day, the Justice card. You can see the Justice card. Hold on if I can find it. You can see the Justice card here with the blood-stained gown. If my camera would focus. This is an excellent example of how things are not really as they seem. Like, you really have to take a closer look at the image. And then things will start sticking out to you, like how they're wearing red. It has me thinking they did something incredibly either violent or out of anger. And then how their actions are like almost seeping into her gown, which is bright white, which white it represents purity, innocence, clarity. Red is anger, it's passion, it's rage, it's associated with war, violent actions, like the planet Mars, of course, in astrology, all those fun things. So, and the fact that it looks like it's blood-stained, it has me thinking that this is something violent, but I like this contrast of the gown looking soiled or unpure, dirty. And then all the way up to the top, you have it bright white. And then she's wearing gray at the very top. So gray is it's that balance. It's that liminal space between white and black. So it's multiple shades of gray is the phrase. So it is really that sense of balance, being neutral. So I do like the use of color in this deck. It's very interesting, and I think that there's a lot of you can take a lot of information from that just by looking at the imagery and the scenery and what's happening in the cards. So I do find that this deck is incredibly, it's a very powerful deck. It's very intentional, and it's something that you want to spend time with. Another one that I've really just started working with alongside the Darkwood Tarot, because they have the same artist, is the Horror Tarot. And I have been enjoying this deck because it's perfect for this time of the year. You know, Halloween's right around the corner. I like this spooky, the creepy monsters and imagery. I do find that this deck really wants to talk about shadow, so I'm finding it to be an interesting clarifier to the Darkwood Tarot. So I think that this deck it aligns with what's going on subconsciously in the spread, where I'll get the overall picture of what's happening through the Darkwood Tarot. But I like the use of color as well. We have, of course, you have more of a color palette leaning towards spooky season and the autumn, of course. Well into that liminal space before winter. But I do think that this is a great deck to work with the Darkwood Tarot. It's been working really well as a clarifier. It looks good next to the Darkwood Tarot because it's the same artist. So I do like this deck as well. I know I've mentioned it early on in my channel that I do enjoy this deck, and I do find it scary accurate. I find that this deck is a little bit more straightforward than the Darkwood. The Darkwood is a little bit more, I find her almost a little standoffish. Like I said, like kind of like the High Priestess energy. So next up on the list here is the Wild Unknown Archetypes. I love this deck because of the mostly black and white imagery. Usually there's pops of color. There are cards like this one where you do get more color than usual, but I do like the limited color. I think that this deck is great for activating your intuition, but what I like is when there's just a little bit of color. It's excellent for beginners, for when you're really starting to grow your color magic practice and you're getting to know what the colors represent to you. It's an excellent sort of place to start, as well as having the additional information of working with archetypes. So, because like I said in the beginning of this video, archetypes can also have animal correspondences or representations and symbolism. They can also have colors that represent them as well. So I do think that this is a really nice place to start. And of course, you can continue as you gain more experience. It's just a great overall deck. It's a very supportive deck to so many different practices. Color magic is no different. So that is the Wild Unknown Archetypes, and you guys know I absolutely love this deck. It's one of my strongest decks in my collection. I still use it now, even after all this time. New to my collection is the Magick of You Oracles. This is it packs a punch. It's a beautiful deck. I have been having such an interesting experience. I've been really enjoying getting to know the deck. I love its use of color. And I find that this deck works really well for clarifying colors. And that's primarily how I like to use it. It will sometimes even go as far as to give me symbolism for which palette to use. You guys know I'm such a nerd. I have palettes that I've dedicated to certain purposes. Deities and familiars, spirits. So sometimes this deck will go ahead and clarify what palette to use by these imagery, the symbolism that's represented in the cards. So not just the colors. And this deck works really well as a clarifier so far for my color magic practice. Another new-ish deck is the Hecate Oracle. You guys know I'm working with Hecate right now very closely, and I have been really enjoying getting to know this deck as well. I find it very intentional. This one also works really well for clarifying colors, as well as telling you even as far as to, you know, what palette to use. I will sometimes find that it will tell me what palette to use. You guys know I have a Klarity Kosmetics. It's called Apocalypse palette, and how I've said that it's like judgment energy, like the judgment card from tarot, because it's a scene of zombies rising from the grave. So I just thought of that as an example, so you kind of get a better idea of what I'm talking about. So sometimes I will get imagery and symbolism that it represents that. that's the palette to use. For example, I pulled this for today. I'm not using the Apocalypse palette, but it's a very kind of similar scene with the dead rising from the graves. By the way, I completely forgot to mention that I will be including what eyeshadow palette and lipstick I'm wearing in each description box going forward. I think I did on my most recent video, apart from this one, already. I'm inspired by OwlMoon513 here on YouTube, Racine. And I also enjoy just having that information out there. I am a practitioner of color magic and glamour magic, so I think that it is relevant to a lot of the topics that I bring like forward on my channel, as I do talk a lot about glamour magic and color magic. But I also like to have that information there for myself, because I will sometimes forget. I'll remember, oh, I really like this certain color combination, but I'll forget what palette or what lipstick I was using, especially as time goes on and I discover new things and new color correspondences. It's just nice to have that information to go back to. Anyway, off topic. So the next deck is the Lost Oracle. This is new. I've had it for a few weeks now. I know it just went up on my channel, but I think I've had it for going on 3 weeks now. So this, just like the Magic of You Oracle that I've already showed you, it's created by Fiona Horn. So I do have an unboxing, well, not an unboxing, but definitely a first impressions video on the channel. I'll link that in the description box below if I remember. But this deck, although there's limited colors, it's mostly black and red. I find that this deck works really well as a clarifier, especially for what other familiars are coming forward, what energies. I find the keywords really are very accurate to what's going on in the day. And then sometimes it will clarify what palette to use. I've noticed that just with the symbolism present in the cards, it will match up to usually an eyeshadow palette. But it will also sometimes confirm what lipstick, because I do have quite a few reds. But what I do really find very remarkable about this deck is, first of all, it's very simple in its imagery, which I like. It's very easy to read. But I do really enjoy the symbolism present in each card. And the limited color as well. I think that this this deck is excellent for those reasons. It can really get your intuition going. Similar to the Kim Cran's decks that I've spoken so much on my channel about, how, you know, a limited color representation in the cards can really activate the intuition. But I do think that this deck is an excellent clarifier for A, what's going on in your day, and B, what tools to bring to the table. Last 3 decks that I want to mention today. So another one by Julia Jeffries. I have the Tarot of the Hidden Realm here. Again, I do think that Julia Jeffries' use of color is very intentional. It's very powerful. And I do find that this is a great place to start when you're creating your own color correspondences. It's a great journaling deck for that. For really creating that record of what colors represent to you. Really building off the foundation of what colors represent from an occult standpoint. But I'm incredibly drawn to the use of this deck as well as the Witch Sister Tarot, particularly the Witch Sister Tarot, because I do find that the colors really do align with how I experience them and what they mean to me and what they represent to me. So I do enjoy working with these decks as part of my color magic practice. I also like the animal symbolism. Like I said, I do have a lot of eyeshadow palettes that they are animal themed, and they really, in my experience, they really do hold the energy of that animal. Like I have a croc one, crocodile, I have a moth one, just as quick examples. And I do find that the color palette, the color story, and the palette itself just holds the energy of that animal very well. So I like to look at what animals are present in the card, what colors, and then I sort of get like I get a picture that forms about my day and what's about to happen. So this is another deck that I really do enjoy working with for this practice. So the last two decks I recommend more for beginners, although this one you can be a more experienced practitioner as well. The Magickal Botanical Oracle, and it also goes really well with this time of the year. It's autumn with spooky season right around the corner. What I like about this deck is its limited color. There are cards with maybe one or two colors, or there's no color at all. But what I like about the colors, or the cards that have color, is it's just a quick pop of color. And it's excellent for activating your intuition and growing your color correspondences. I guess I should say your record of color correspondences. What colors represent to you? What do you think it means? Oh, there is nudity in this deck, by the way, I forgot. Also, the guidebook is really good. It gives you a magical meaning and a plant spirit medicine, as well as a divinatory meaning. There is planet correspondences and element correspondences as well. So there's a lot of information. This is a good study deck. It's a good journaling deck, really getting down to the nitty-gritty and exploring what certain colors represent to you and what they mean to you and why. So the last deck is the Secret Language of Color cards. I recommend this for a beginner. If you're new to working with color magic, or you're interested in growing, not growing, but starting a color magic practice, and you're learning, or you want to learn what the colors mean. So this is sort of, it's like a foundation, like tarot, you know, you got to start somewhere. And the guidebook will give you a little bit of information about what card, what color, what each color represents. And I'll show you the cards. This deck will also work really well as a clarifier for clarifying certain colors in a color story, or within a spread, I should say. So I do recommend it for a more experienced practitioner in that sense as well, especially if you're unsure of a particular color story or even just a single color. But I do recommend it for those purposes. So that sums up supportive decks for a color magic practice. it sums up how I like to work with my tarot and oracle decks to support my practice. And it also explained a little bit about how I like to work with my cards as well. I didn't get too much into that because I do want to keep that to myself, at least for now, but I do really enjoy, I get a lot of gratification from this practice. It is something that I do greatly enjoy, and I do think that you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy color, the use of color as well, and I'm not limited to makeup as well. I've already explained I do also like to use clothing as well as jewelry pieces, and my practice isn't just exclusive to color. I think I explain that. At least I hope I explained it clearly. But that pretty much sums up everything that I wanted to bring to the table today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end of the video. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.